You know, I don't sit in the education committee, and so I really don't understand a lot of what is going on in our education system. But as many of you know, I have a 1.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And so now, as the good speaker usually says, I've got skin in the game when we look at the content that is going to be provided to these little youngsters. You know, in this political battle that we're in, it's a worldwide battle. It is so imperative that we fight for the hearts and minds of these little ones. And that's why this caught my attention. So I was sitting in JFAC committee and just showed up, an early 8 o'clock, and I was unaware of this grant at all. And I did a quick reading, and I saw that it gives close to $6 million to a nonprofit. So that's the first thing that caught my eye, because we don't usually see a direct, a bill for one amount of money going to a nonprofit. That's not a common tendency. I know I tried to get money for another nonprofit, and there was a lot of, we try not to do that. And I think that we go into that cautiously for a good reason, because when it comes to nonprofits, you can't go to the Transparent Idaho website and look and see what they're spending that grant money on. Nonprofits, they don't have to reveal all of that. So once the money goes, while some of the state agencies can ask about it, there really is no requirement for them to provide an accounting of how this money is spent. And so it did cause me to ask the question, and I did a quick internet search while the executive director was talking about the grant. And I instantly, when I pulled up the website, I saw on their page just showcasing an Idaho business, which really isn't alarming. But showcasing the business of an individual running for office, it just initially I thought, is there maybe a conflict of interest here? And so I did ask the question, and it was answered that no, they're not receiving any money, even though they are being showcased, kind of advertising, but that's okay. So that's all right. We move on, right? But I did want people to be aware of how I saw that potential conflict of interest. But then I kept digging because, I've got skin in the game when it comes to really, even on their social media website, there's multiple instances where this is discussed as a preschool grant. And so I do find that interesting that there is a growing nationwide push to get mandatory preschool into all states, really. And I do think that is a valuable policy decision that we could discuss. But I don't think that just allowing federal money to come in to push preschool is a very wise choice. And the reason I don't think it's wise is because we then lose our ability to control the content. And so I kept digging. When you go to the IAEYC website, at the very top, there is a membership button. And when you click on that membership button, because they want you to be a member to get these resources, you can't just become a member of the IDAEYC. There is only the option for the membership to the national organization because they are an affiliate group. And so I think that's important as we try to distinguish whether or not this is an Idaho nonprofit or if this is a national nonprofit that is slowly moving into our state to push preschool. So please keep that in mind and go check out their website if you'd like to become a member. So the next thing I started digging was where I started looking at their content and what resources are available, what are the resources that we're providing to these parents? Just like in the bill says, we're going to provide education resources. So what are those resources? So, and actually, let's back up. To the national, when you look on their national website, that we're an affiliate, and if you want to become a member, you have to become a member there. On the second page of your handout at the bottom, you'll notice they put out catalogs. So when you get a membership, you get one of their catalogs. And this last catalog, some of the titled topics are, the power and knowledge to transform our teaching and our learning. But the ones that kind of concern me now is this knowledge-rich curriculum supporting positive identity development and advancing equity. Well, that sounds good. I'd like to advance equality, and that it's never too young to support a cause, and how supporting positive identity development through social justice curriculum in preschool. And that's where my skin in the game kind of ruffled the feathers on the back of my neck. Why are we providing preschoolers, little developing children, information on how to help them with social justice curriculum? So that brings up a huge issue. I think we need to talk about social justice ideology. That's what you're voting for. You're voting for social justice ideology to be given through grant money to our little ones. So when you look at the next page, where on the national website, they show you what they support. They have a position statement on what it means, advancing equity. And you can see on page 14, their position statement, who we are an affiliate with, says whiteness confers privilege, as does being a male. I'll tell you, it's an honor for me to serve with every one of you. And I do not believe that you are privileged based on your gender or your race. I absolutely believe in our constitutional and freedoms and that we are all created equal. So let's go to page 18 of their position statement, where it talks about our structural inequities, or what white fragility is. That what is it? You can read it. Or let's talk about intersectionality. And why are we teaching that to a 2-year-old? Because I will tell you that my 2.5-year-old, she knows half of the Pledge of Allegiance, and she is proud of it. So you say, okay, that's the national group. Even though we're an affiliate, and even though you have to get a membership with them, we're not teaching that in Idaho. Okay, let's go to the next page. You can see the website at the top, idahoaeyc.org, and at the bottom, Self-Regulation, a foundation for our leadership and educational success workshop resources. Here are those resources that are in the bill. This is great. Let's click on the link to classroom literature. And then you can see the little printout there underneath it. The very first thing that pops up when you click on those resources, first of all, it's a whole book list. But I'll just start with the number 1 book on their book list. A is for activism. It's an ABC board book written and illustrated for the next generation of progressives. Families who want their kids to grow up in a space that's unapologetic for activism, environmental justice, civil rights, LGBTQ rights. They forgot the plus, I think, and everything else that activists believe in and fight for. So, hey, it's on our Idaho website. Let's look through the rest of the book list. A picture book that invites white children and parents to become curious about racism and accept that it's real and cultivate justice? How about being misgendered? 10,000 dresses for Marcus Ewert. How about Lila's lunchbox, a Ramadan story? That's awesome, but I don't see a story in here about Christianity. In a new school, and then there's your A for activism. And then the famous white fragility, why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism. So what is social justice, and why are we teaching it to our children? And what is critical race theory, and why are we teaching it to our children? You know, social justice a year ago, I wouldn't have known really how to define it. I want justice in our society. That's why we're all here, and we want justice. But social justice ideology is not about providing justice. It's divisive in its very nature. It creates two groups of people. You have aggrieved minorities and you have oppressive majorities. And it compromises the dreams of assimilating diverse people into our great American melting pot. And thus it hurts the free exchange of ideas. It festers anger and resentment while undermining mutual respect. This is the content that we're providing. So let's talk about critical race theory. You know, it's also an ideology. If you do a quick internet search, it talks about it's a framework in jurisprudence that examines society and culture as related to race and law and power in the United States. You know, critical race theory teaches racism is present in every aspect of your life, in every relationship, and in every interaction. It's against free society and your independent nature. It teaches that anyone who disagrees with it must do so for a racist reason. You know, this theory is not an effective way for us to deal with race issues. And I think we have to do everything that we can to get this out of our education system. We have to get these resources away from our little kids. I mean, that's how we're losing the hearts and minds of our little ones. And so I think I will end and summarize it in that if we want preschool in our state, let's address that policy and let's move forward. But let's not just usher in federal money that we have no control over the content. So there are other organizations that can do this. And please, let's not indoctrinate our kids. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.